Hello everyone, this is Tactical Lich here and welcome to another Total War Warhammer 2 online multiplayer replay. Thanks to Soaf submitting this replay file, today we'll be looking at a Skaven vs Greenskins battle. Now for the Greenskin frontline, we have a whole line of gobbles. These cheap expandable chaff will be a decent counter against the Skaven slaves, where they are just cheap chaff trading against cheap chaff. At the back we have some AP loonies. They're unbreakable, so they do give the fragile lowly goblins a little bit of an unbreakable backbone. At the back we have some stone trolls. These giant monsters would be perfect to punch through the Skaven frontline, using their mass to push through and trash the backlines, the armored weapons teams, with their armor-piercing weapon strength. Their fear attribute will also be very helpful in routing off Skaven units who generally have low leadership. For the mobility, the Greenskins are spamming that right now, with a whole bunch of Gobble Riders, Forest Goblin Spider Riders, Orc Boar Boys scattered along both flanks. In addition, we also have the regiment of renowned Moon Howlers. Not only do they have better stats in general, but they also cause fear. They are no doubt trying to overwhelm the backlines of the Skavens to get into those fragile underbelly of the artillery and missiles. Now for the Skaven build, we have a bunch of Night Runners pushing forward, trying to skirmish a bit and maybe screen away the Greenskins' mobility. And for the defensive geometry, right here, we have a whole bunch of Skaven slaves, Clanrat Spears, and Wolf Rats with Poison. This is a common formation that you see in campaign, where you have some narrowly deployed infantry in the front. They basically encircle all the missile core of the Skaven army, and exposing some massive gaps through their formations, and allowing the Poison Wind Globadiers and whatever missile infantry at the back to just shoot through these gaps and shoot into the flanks of your enemy. Now, of course, this does run the risk of exposing the flank here, allowing certain units to sneak by and crash into the missile infantry, but Red Ogres here and more Skaven Slave Spears will be able to collapse onto those mobility who dare challenge the missile superiority of the Skavens and then just basically focus them down. For the leadership, we have a Corn Champion turned Mutant Rat Ogre, Gorich, coming in with a lot of armor-piercing weapon strength. As a powerful melee combatant with that massive 68 melee attack, it is the only unit in this build that can challenge single entities like River Trollhack and Grom the Paunch in melee combat. Now for the spellcasting department, we have the Plague Priest coming in with Pestilent Breath and also Vermintide Summons, and of course leadership for so many monsters, it's gonna be Fraud the Unclean. And that's basically the army builds. Let's get the battle started. As the Warp Lightning Cannon aka Zap Zap unleashing the fire onto the Goblin Big Boss, trying to snipe it out early, while Fraud the Unclean just pushing forward, screening out all these lowly riders of the Gobbles, providing a little bit of support to allow the Night Runners to start skirmishing them down, using their ammo to soften up the Greenskin mobility. And with the artillery advantage of the Skaven, the Greenskins will be taking quite some damage as they march forward. You can see the River Trollhack already eating some shots from the Kick Zap Zap. They will be pushing forward as fast as possible to get into melee range. Excuse me for the fast forward there, as the marching is rather long. Forest Goblin Spider Riders try to sneak through the gap and charge into the Poison Wind Globadiers, but as I've mentioned before, the units surrounding them are just collapsing onto these Forest Gobbles. Also, they got caught onto some Clanrat Spears, basically denied from getting into the Poison Wind Globadiers, who are tanking out this damage pretty well with their heavy 100 armor. Normally, you can probably try to narrow the formation down and sneak through the gaps, but it seems that Soaf cannot afford this kind of micro right now. As you can see, the Greenskin army is spread extremely wide, and now on the far flank, some of the Greenskin mobility are getting crushed by Fraud the Unclean and the summoned Red Ogres. Losing that flank, the Greenskins decide to put more focus onto the Stone Troll pushes, Grom and the Stone Trolls crashing into combat, destroying the cowardly weapons teams. The Moon Howlers will charge into the backlines and crunch through these against Zap Zap, since the Wolf Rats were pulled away from the position. And now with the Stone Trolls clashing in, smashing apart all these resistance along the way, one of the Poison Wind Globadiers is already gone. The flimsy Clan Rats and Skaven Slaves simply fail to protect these assets. Over on this end as well, the aggressive push of the Stone Trolls are squeezing all the Skaven units into a tight blob, catching the remaining Poison Wind Globadiers. Their 100 armor might be able to fend off some Wolf Riders, but in front of the Stone Trolls' giant clubs, armored or not, they are getting crushed to pieces. A purple Son of Zerus drops right down the line, blasting away a lot of these Skaven chaff. However, this also went through some of their own goblins and also orc boar boys, so that's a bit of a friendly fire. Still, with Gorge and the Red Ogres surrounded, outnumbered by the Greenskins, the Stone Trolls are feeling pretty comfortable, especially with the Wa buffing their attacks to smash through all these units. However, things are not exactly in the favor of the Greenskins. As you can see there, the balance of power is actually slightly in favor of the Skavens, as the Greenskins has lost their mobility fight completely. Frog the Unclean and the Wolf Rats here are just cleaning up all these routing units. Over here, Red Ogres and Frog the Unclean going after the Giant River Trollhack, trying to eliminate the magic of the Greenskins. Now the Red Ogres here are routed, but at what cost? Gorge is still fighting, the Orc Boar Boys are pretty much done for, Goblins are routing, there's no more infantry support in the fray other than the 8 Loonies, as the earlier Fanatics cast actually ripped through their own ranks. And now the River Trollhack is almost dead. She was stuck in combat against some of the most powerful single entities in Skaven army, barely making out of it alive. Luckily for her, with all the Stone Trolls collapsing onto the enemies, the River Trollhack was saved. While over here, Night Runners, not being any slouch in combat, was able to counterpunch these Orc Boar Boys and rout them in combat, while these Orc Boar Boys trying to rout off these Red Ogres, as well as the Clan Red Spears, just driving off all these scattered Skaven units, making sure they don't come back. Back to the middle, we have a massive monster mashing going on right now. Red Ogres versus Stone Trolls. Gorge himself has taken some damage, but he is still fighting valiantly. Creature Killer is helping him hold in this kind of blob combat, buffing up his attack with that bonus versus large, giving him massive damage boost against Grom the Paunch, who does not have Lucky Banner active right now to mitigate that damage. In a desperate attempt to basically break apart the Skaven resistance, all these Stone Trolls piled on top of Frog the Unclean, leaving Grom the Paunch at the mercy of Gorge, and a massive hit from Gorge from the back. That put a huge dent in Grom's HP and forces him to rout. On the other hand, Frog the Unclean on his Brute Horror is pretty fast, so he is reaching the white line and running off the battlefield before he can actually recover his leadership. And with that, Skaven lost their leadership, who still have quite a bit of regeneration left, a massive loss for the Red Boys. In return, we have some Wolf Rats chasing down Grom the Paunch. They will not allow Grom the Paunch to come back. Given that the Greenskins do not have any mobility left whatsoever, all they have is a huge blob of Stone Trolls coupled with some really flimsy gobbles. No remaining Greenskins can catch up with their fleeing leader. It is pretty much guaranteed Grom the Paunch will be escorted off the battlefield. The question is how long before they need to do so, before they can come back and clean up all the remainder gobbles to try to buy the Skaven some more time to try and get back on that balance of power. Now let us fast forward a bit, as both armies are trying to consolidate and rout off the scattered units. You can see here some Red Ogres barely came back before the white line, and now they'll be returning to Gorge for regrouping. Now both players are just trying to consolidate their forces, reposition for the next engagement, as the Wolf Rats are returning after chasing off the routing units. Suave here, lacking the mobility, will be bracing himself for his opponent's charge. And now Gorge charges into engagement as they have waited long enough and the Wolf Rats have returned. The Mutant Rat Ogre hero driving deep into enemy ranks, routing them with that terror and fear. Stone Trolls with their low leadership are swiftly terrified, while these returning Wolf Rats will be easily able to chase them down with the help of some Red Ogres. Now these Stone Trolls much more healthier, they are routing in a more favorable position along with their comrades, as they are routing towards this direction, essentially conserving some of their forces from the Wolf Rats who are chasing the other Stone Troll units towards the white line. And with the 8 Loonies holding the army together as the unbreakable anchor, they will be able to recover from that terror and now come back and trying to chase down Gorge. But since Gorge extracted himself from battle before the Wolf Rats could shatter the Stone Trolls, he didn't necessarily have to engage, and wisely he pulled away, as the Stone Trolls will most certainly give him a heavy beating. The Skavens will be avoiding combat until the Red Ogres and the Wolf Rats have returned to surround their enemies. But then remember, the Stone Trolls are still very healthy right now and are regenerating, so the Skaven are losing out on balance of power as the Stone Trolls are healing while the Skavens are not. And now Gorge attempts the same shenanigans yet again, charging head-on into the Stone Trolls, attempting to rout them with the terror. But this time, the Stone Trolls are not wavering, and instead they are beating back these Red Ogres. Of course, Gorge drops down his little ability there, Eviscerate, trying to do some magic damage, but it is not enough as the Stone Trolls still very much healthy. They are now surrounding Gorge, clobbering the giant mutant Red Ogre, who was once a Khorne champion, now turned into a Skaven monstrosity. The relatively decent armor on Gorge will mean nothing in front of these Stone Trolls' mighty clubs. The Stone Trolls were able to hold their ground against the charge of Gorge, as they were able to recover some of their health and fight in better shape. To save their remaining hero, the Wolf Rats will be trying to sacrifice themselves to delay that Stone Troll assault, while Gorge is pulling out of combat, trying to come back in once again for that counter charge. Now, some 8-peak loonies, actually 2 of them still remaining, actually tying down the Wolf Rats, distracting them from chasing down the Stone Trolls. So the Stone Trolls are able to charge towards Gorge. Although, as I said that, the last of the 8-peak loonies have fallen in combat, turning into a bit of a Skaven dog food. This not only gave the Wolf Rats some mushrooms for dinner, but they also free up the Wolf Rats, allowing to catch up with the Stone Trolls who are chasing down Gorge. Now let us just fast forward a bit as Gorge is running away from combat yet again. Finally, the Wolf Rats caught up but was quickly routed, and then Gorge charges in trying to use the Eviscerate again, but Gorge actually routs right before the Stone Trolls are terrified. Man, this game was way too close. If Gorge actually held on for a split second longer, then the Stone Trolls will be terrified. Greenskins would have lost this game. Now before we go into the army performances, I would like to say a big thanks to both players for bringing such a fun game to the table, and of course, Soav, thank you for sending in this replay. And for the viewers, I hope you enjoyed this battle, and if you do, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe to get notified every time I upload a new video. I'll be covering topics including battle replays like this one, wild army builds, or just general tips and strategies for online multiplayer for Total War Warhammer 2. Now for the army performances, goblins, they are goblins after all, didn't really do too much here. However, the 8-peak loonies, these absolute unbreakable chads among night goblins, were basically the only thing holding the whole army together. You might remember for a few moments during the game, the whole remaining army of the Greenskins were routed, including the Stone Trolls, the Lesser Gobbles. However, these 8-peak loonies were staying in the fight, being the only unrouted, unterrified unit, keeping the Greenskins in the game, allowing the Stone Trolls to regroup and come back and going for second rounds against Gorge. The unbreakable trait of this unit is so crucial to the whole Greenskins army, given everything in the roster are not exactly the high leadership loyal fighters. Now for the mobility, unfortunately Suave sacrificed them pretty early. A bit of a mistake here, as a lot of these mobility were haphazardly thrown into combat against the Skaven defensive geometry, were able to focus down by Gorge and Red Ogres, and losing those mobility means that Suave actually lost the initiative to take the fight to the enemy in the late game. In the end, was forced to take a more passive role, being charged and psycho-charged by the Skaven units, causing the game to end much closer than it would have been had some of these terror-routed Goblin Wolf Riders remained in the fray and chased down the routing Skavens or fend off the Wolf Rats. At least the Moon Howlers got some value back by routing the Zap Zap cannon crew. Now the powerhouse of the faction, the Stone Trolls there, did really well, smashing apart the Poison Wind Globadiers and then crushed the Red Ogres, and in the end surrounded the Throttled Unclean as well as Gorge, using their massive stone clubs to clobber these monstrosity of the Skaven. The devastating weapon strength are really crucial here in focusing down all these single entities. As for the leadership, they didn't really do too much here. The River Troll hack seems to have a lot of value. However, remember, friendly troops does count into that damage value. So that Purple Son of Zeruz, that friendly fire that ran through a whole bunch of Greenskins, Orc Boys, and Goblins, well, we don't know how much of that was included in this 1300 value. So we can't really say how effective this unit was in battle. Goblin Big Balls got focused down by the Red Ogres and also Throttled Unclean, unable to do any damage at all. Grom the Paunch, despite having a lot of regeneration left, the fact that he was terror routed by Gorge and then escorted off the battlefield by the Wolf Rats limited his performance. Now for the Skaven army, Clan Rats and Skaven Slaves are chaff of the army, so they can't really count, and the Night Runners, being overloaded by a bunch of mobility. Yes, they fought off some tattered Orc Boys, but that's basically it, unable to do too much damage either. These Poison Wind Globadiers being crushed by the devastating charge, the thunderous charge of the Stone Trolls, they were routed before being able to use too much of the Poison Wind effect to their advantage. Now, the Wolf Rats, the Skaven player here, Evenstar, did really well with these guys, cleaning up a lot of these routing goblins and also recharging a lot of these remaining greenskin units, and on top of that, escorted Grom the Paunch off the battlefield. 230 kills, really impressive stuff. Red Ogres, in contrast, didn't do as well as they were facing off a lot of these simply superior monstrosity. Ikit Zap got routed by the Moon Howlers early, so basically a little bit of damage into River Trollhack and the Goblin Big Boss, and after that they were gone from the battle. Now for the heroes, Gorage here, absolute powerhouse, 3000 value, 186 kills. The Eviscerate is great in block fights, and also Throt's ability Creature Killer, giving him anti-large and immune to psychology, allow him to held in the block fight, subsequently sniping out Grom the Paunch early. And in the end, almost pulled the game back and did some massive damage to some of these Stone Trolls. Throt the Unclean, a pretty similar situation to Grom the Paunch there, a lot of regeneration capacity left, however, just got routed early, especially he was rather close to the white line and he was fast, so he just darted for that escape from the battle. Plague Priest there, I don't really remember him putting out any spells or summons, probably just got overloaded by the greenskin brute forcing and got crumped and disappeared from the battlefield. Now for a bit of an overview, overall a great game from both players there. Evenstar was able to use Gorage to his maximum potential. Normally you don't even see him on battlefield, but over here he really carried the game for Skavens. Their use of the Wolf Rats was on point, hunting down a lot of those routing units, including some of the Stone Trolls, most of the Greenskins' mobility that were routed, and of course Grom the Paunch, who could very well have turned the tables if he was allowed to come back and heal up, charging into battle once more. As for Soav, his use of the mobility was a little bit rash, but he was able to conserve the forces of Stone Trolls, keeping them healthy till the late game, allowing them to surround the key units of Skavens and give them a proper crumping. And yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.